You are 60 years old. You are sitting at your kitchen table with a cup of coffee in your hands. The house is completely quiet. The kids are gone. They have been gone for years now. You walk past the empty bedrooms upstairs, the ones you only go into when you need to dust the baseboards or when someone visits for the holidays. Then, you walk back downstairs and check the mail. The property tax bill is there. It has gone up again. The utility bill is there. It is higher than last year. The lawn needs to be mowed, the gutters need to be cleaned, and you know the roof is probably going to need replacing in the next 5 years. You sit back down, look at your spouse, and say the words millions of Americans say every year. Let's sell. Let's cash out, buy a smaller place, and live off the difference. It sounds so simple, doesn't it? It is the classic American dream playbook for retirement. You spend your working years building equity, and then you harvest that equity when you stop working. But nobody warns you about the financial bloodbath that happens between the moment you list your family home and the moment you unpack your boxes in the new place. I have spoken directly and honestly with hundreds of couples in this exact situation. They sit at their table with a piece of paper. On that paper, they have done the math. It is always back of the napkin math. They take the Zillow estimate of their current home, they subtract the Zillow estimate of the condo they want to buy in Florida or Arizona or just down the street, and they assume the difference is pure, clean cash going straight into their brokerage account. And then I have to be the bad guy. I have to break out the real calculator. I have to watch their faces fall as we subtract the hidden fees, the tax bombs, the preparation costs, and the phantom expenses they never saw coming. Let me tell you about a painful mistake I see homeowners make constantly. A couple told me their story last year. They thought they were freeing up $500,000 in liquid cash by downsizing. They had everything planned out. They were going to use that money to travel, to spoil their grandchildren, and to buffer their retirement income so they wouldn't have to worry about stock market crashes. By the time the dust settled, they netted less than a third of what they expected. Not only that, but they actually increased their monthly fixed costs. And they triggered a tax event that drained their existing liquid savings. They traded their hard-earned equity for an illusion. They downsized their house. But they also downsized their retirement dreams. I'm going to walk you through exactly how this happens, step by step, dollar by dollar, so you do not make the same mistake. Now, I know what you're thinking. You are saying to yourself, but my house is completely paid off. I do not have a mortgage. How can I possibly lose money by selling a paid-off house and buying a cheaper one? We are going to get to that. We are going to look at the math. But first, we need to dismantle the myth. The myth is, downsizing is a straight line. The myth says that if House A sells for $1 million and House B costs $500,000, you put $500,000 in your pocket. This is mathematically false. The friction involved in real estate transactions is enormous. Real estate is not a liquid asset. It is a highly illiquid, localized, and heavily taxed asset class. Let's break down the hidden friction points that eat your equity alive. Friction point number 1 is what I call the preparation paradox. You have lived in your home for 20 or 25 years. You love it. It is comfortable. But buyers do not want your comfortable home. Buyers want a modern, neutral, turnkey property. They want fresh paint, new floors, updated fixtures, and modern appliances. If you list your house exactly as it is, you are going to take a massive haircut on the asking price. Buyers will walk in, see a dated kitchen, and instantly subtract $50,000 from their offer. So, what do? You spend money to make money. You drop $20,000, $30,000, or $40,000 into presale renovations just to secure that top-tier valuation. You are already bleeding equity before a sign even goes up in your yard. Friction point number 2 involves the transaction costs. These are the fees everyone forgets about until they are sitting at the closing table. Realtor commissions are typically 5 to 6%. On $1 million home, that is $50,000 to $60,000 gone instantly. Then you have staging costs, escrow fees, title insurance, and local transfer taxes. In some counties, the transfer tax alone can be thousands of dollars. Friction point number 3 is the replacement cost. Smaller does not mean proportionally cheaper. You might be moving from a 4,000 square foot house to a 2,000 square foot townhouse, but that townhouse likely comes with a homeowners association fee. We will dig into this later, but HOA fees are the silent killer of retirement budgets. Friction point number 4 is the psychological trap. You move into the new place, and none of your old furniture fits. The scale is wrong. The style is wrong. So you buy new furniture. You realize the new place needs a bit of work, so you hire a contractor. Suddenly, you are hemorrhaging cash on a place that was supposed to save you money. To really understand this, we need to stop talking in theories and start looking at the verified math. We need a real-world case study. Let's look at David and Sarah. They are a married couple, both 60 years old. They own a beautiful, four-bedroom colonial home in a suburb of New Jersey. They bought this home back in 1999 for $350,000. They raised their kids there. They paid off the mortgage 5 years ago. Today, according to recent comps in their neighborhood, their home is worth $1.2 million. Their plan is straightforward. They want to sell the New Jersey house for $1.2 million. They want to move down to South Carolina and buy a nice 3-bedroom condo on the golf course for $600,000. In David and Sarah's minds, the math is simple. 1.2 million minus 600,000 equals $600,000 in profit. They plan to invest that 600 grand and generate about $24,000 a year in safe, reliable income. Let's run their actual numbers. Let's see what really happens. Step 1, getting the house ready. Their roof is 15 years old. Their kitchen still has the granite countertops from 2005. Their real estate agent tells them that to get $1.2 million, they need to update the kitchen, paint the entire interior, and fix the landscaping. They spend $40,000 out of pocket. Step 2, the sale. The house sells for exactly $1.2 million. Great news, right? Not exactly. The real estate commissions take 5%. That is $60,000 pulled right off the top. Step 3, closing costs. Between the seller's concessions, the attorney fees, the title search, and the New Jersey realty transfer fee, they pay another $15,000 at the closing table. Now we get to step 4, and this is the one that destroys retirement plans. The taxes. Most people believe that selling their primary residence is tax-free. That is a dangerous half-truth. Under Section 121 of the IRS tax code, a married couple filing jointly can exclude up to $500,000 of capital gains on the sale of their primary residence. If you are single, it is $250,000. Let's calculate David and Sarah's capital gain. They bought the house for $350,000. Over the 25 years they lived there, let's say they kept meticulous records and can prove they made $50,000 in capital improvements. A new deck, an HVAC system, things like that. Their cost basis is now $400,000. They sold the house for $1.2 million. $1.2 million minus the $400,000 cost basis equals an $800,000 gross profit. They apply their $500,000 exclusion. That leaves $300,000 of taxable capital gains. Now, how is that taxed? It is subject to long-term capital gains tax rates. For most people in this bracket, that is 15%. But because their income is now artificially inflated by this huge sale, they might also trigger the net investment income tax, which adds another 3.8%. Let's assume an effective federal tax rate of 18.8% on that $300,000. That is $56,400 owed to the IRS. But wait, we are not done. They live in a state with state income taxes. New Jersey taxes capital gains as ordinary income. Depending on their other income, they could easily owe another $20,000 in state taxes. Their total tax bill just for selling their house is $76,400. Let's pause right here. The math looks great on paper, but here is where this blows up in the real world. You do not just write a check to the IRS and move on. You lose the opportunity cost of that money. That $76,000 is money that will never compound for you in the stock market. It is gone forever. Let's tally up the damage so far. Starting price, $1.2 million, minus $40,000 for repairs, minus $60,000 for commissions, minus $15,000 for closing costs, minus $76,400 for taxes. David and Sarah's net proceeds from the sale of their $1.2 million home are $1,008,600. Already, almost $200,000 has evaporated. Now, let's move them to South Carolina. They are buying the condo for $600,000. They have closing costs on the buy side, title insurance, origination fees if they were getting a mortgage, recording fees, appraisals. Since they are paying cash, it's lower, but let's estimate $10,000 in buy-side closing costs. Next up, the move. Moving a four-bedroom house across the country is not cheap. Professional packers, moving trucks, insurance for your valuables. That is easily $20,000. Then comes the furniture trap. Their massive dining room table does not fit in the condo. Their sectional sofa blocks the sliding glass door. They spend $15,000 on new furniture to make the new place functional. Total cost to buy and move into the new place: $600,000 for the condo, plus $10,000 for closing, plus $20,000 for the move, plus $15,000 for furniture. That equals $645,000. Let's look at the final bank account balance. They walked away from the New Jersey sale with $1,008,600. They spent $645,000 on the new life. They are left with $363,600 in cash. Let me repeat that. They expected to put $600,000 in the bank. They actually netted $363,000, $600. Nearly $250,000 of their expected wealth vanished into the friction of the transaction. But we are not done yet. We have to talk about the hidden monthly costs of the new place. People assume that because they downsized the square footage, they also downsized the budget. Let's look at David and Sarah's monthly cash flow. In New Jersey, their paid-off home cost them about $22,000 a year in carrying costs. That was $15,000 in property taxes, $3,000 in home insurance, and about $4,000 in general maintenance. Now they are in South Carolina. Their property taxes dropped significantly. They are only paying $6,000 a year. Their insurance is $2,000. They are feeling pretty smart. But then they get the bill for the homeowners association. Their condo is on a golf course. The community has a pool, a clubhouse, and pristine landscaping. That comes at a steep price. Their HOA fee is $800 a month. That is $9,600 a year. Suddenly, their new carrying costs are $17,600 a year. They moved hundreds of miles away, left their community behind, and they are only saving $4,400 a year in fixed expenses. And that is just the baseline. Condos have special assessments. The association decides the roof on the building needs to be replaced, or the pool pump fails, or the parking lot needs repaving. They get handed a bill for $10,000, payable in 90 days. When you buy a house, you control the maintenance schedule. When you buy into an HOA, the board runs your life. You have surrendered your autonomy. Now, let's go back to the cash they have left. They have $363,600 sitting in the bank. They plan to invest it to generate income. Here is where the real-world friction hits again. They invest it in a standard portfolio of stocks and bonds, expecting an 8% average annual return. Now, I know what you're thinking. You are saying, well, the stock market always goes up over time, so they will make their money back. Yes, the market goes up over time. But you do not have over time anymore. You are 60. You are approaching the distribution phase of your life, not the accumulation phase. You do not have 30 years to wait out a bear market. This introduces sequence of returns risk. What happens if they invest that $360,000 and the stock market drops 20% in their first year in South Carolina? Suddenly, their investment cushion is down to $290,000. They see their balance dropping. They panic. They pull money out to cover living expenses, locking in those losses permanently. This is the ultimate liquidity trap. Before they downsized, they had a massive, rock-solid, paid-off asset. Now, they have less house, barely lower monthly expenses, and a volatile portfolio that dictates whether they can sleep at night. They traded a stable, physical asset for a liquid, fluctuating one, and they paid nearly $250,000 in friction costs for the privilege. There is another massive trap hiding in the tax code that nobody warns you about. We did not apply it to David and Sarah because they are 60, but I need you to hear this. Let's say they were 63 instead of 60 when they sold the house. That $300,000 taxable capital gain would not just trigger income taxes. It would trigger a massive hidden penalty 2 years later when they turned 65. It is called IRMAA, the Income-Related Monthly Adjustment Amount. When you turn 65 and enroll in Medicare, the government looks at your tax return from 2 years prior to determine your Medicare Part B and Part D premiums. If your income was artificially inflated by a massive capital gain from selling a house, you get thrown into the highest Medicare premium bracket. That single house sale could double or even triple their Medicare premiums for a full calendar year. It is a stealth tax on middle-class retirees, and nobody warns you about the IRMAA cliff until you open the letter from Social Security and see your benefits slashed. So, what is the solution? What should David and Sarah have done instead? What should you do? If downsizing is this dangerous, how do you manage your wealth and your living situation as you age? The solution is not to just sit in a house you hate. The solution is to remove the emotion and run a parallel path of options before you call a real estate agent. Step 1 is the aging in place alternative. Instead of spending $150,000 in sunk transaction costs to move, what if David and Sarah had spent $100,000 retrofitting their New Jersey home? They could have built a spectacular master suite on the first floor. They could have widened the doorways, updated the bathrooms for accessibility, and installed a chairlift or even a residential elevator. If they had done that, they would still be $50,000 richer than if they had sold and moved. Plus, they would have kept their doctors, their neighbors, their friends, and their community network. They would have zero HOA fees. Step 2 is the rental test drive. Let's say you are absolutely determined to move. Do not buy the new property immediately. Sell your house if you must, but rent in the new location for 12 to 18 months. I cannot tell you how many retirees buy the dream condo in a warmer climate, move all their stuff down there, and realize within 6 months that they made a terrible mistake. They hate the humidity. They hate the HOA rules. They cannot stand the traffic. Or, most commonly, they just miss their grandkids too much. If you buy a place, hate it, and sell it a year later to move back home, you get hit with those massive transaction costs twice. You will decimate your net worth. Renting first is cheap insurance against a massive geographical mistake. Step 3 is accessing your equity without selling. If you are house rich and cash poor, and that is why you want to downsize, there are ways to get that money out without triggering a tax bomb or paying a realtor 6%. You can look at home equity lines of credit, or, if you are old enough, you can look at a reverse mortgage. Now, I know exactly what you are thinking. You are thinking, reverse mortgages are a scam. They steal your house. Historically, they had a terrible reputation, but the regulations have changed drastically. If a reverse mortgage is used strategically as a standby line of credit, it can be a financial lifeline. You can pull tax-free money out of your home during down markets so you do not have to sell your stocks at a loss. You retain ownership of the home. You retain the upside if the home appreciates. You just borrow against it. It is a tool, and like any tool, it can be used poorly, but it should not be ignored. Step 4 is building a verifiable, bulletproof net sheet. Do not guess. Do not use Zillow. Do not use back-of-the-napkin math. Before you make any decisions, you must call a real estate agent and ask for a seller's net sheet. Tell them to include every single fee, commission, and transfer tax. Then, you take that net sheet to a certified public accountant. You ask the CPA to run a tax projection on the sale. Tell them to calculate your cost basis, factor in your capital improvements, apply the Section 121 exclusion, and give you an exact estimate of your federal, state, and local tax liabilities. Then, you call a moving company and get a binding estimate. You put all of these hard numbers on a spreadsheet. If the final number that falls to the bottom line still makes sense for your retirement plan, then you have my blessing to proceed. But for millions of Americans, that bottom line is a shock. Downsizing is not a simple lifestyle strategy. It is a massive, highly taxed financial transaction masquerading as a lifestyle choice. Your house is not just walls and a roof. It is the anchor of your balance sheet. Treat it with the respect it deserves, run the math cold, and do not let the illusion of a simpler life trick you into a complex financial nightmare. Before you put a for sale sign in your yard, remember, this is just general education. I don't know your specific property taxes or your capital gains situation, so please verify these numbers with your own CPA or real estate professional before making any massive moves.